So, I know it's hard to see me, and I was going to touch on this topic on TikTok, but I decided to do a slightly longer video because I feel like it's something that takes a little bit of explaining. Someone was talking about the fact that when someone brings up something that often happens within a culture that is like people of color, it's not usually something that white people do, and if it is, it's not because of race. I don't necessarily think it's because of race in any culture. I think it has to do with geographical location. Allow me to explain. In more heavily condensed cities and more impoverished cities, you see more police brutality of everyone, not just people of color. Now, if people of color are the main population, then obviously there's going to be more statistics that are in their direction with that issue. But some places just have more police and therefore more incidences with police. But this is not the only topic I'm going to relay back to this theory. Think about whenever you think about kids getting punished. Okay, everyone uses the old argument that if you were this race or that race, you probably got hit with this, that, or the other thing. You probably got corrected this, that, or the other way. You probably got physically disciplined versus supposedly only white people get yelled at and get grounded and shit. I didn't get grounded. I got hit. I got swatted with a switch. I got slapped across the face. We've been over this in my other videos. And whether or not it's a good reason or a good thing to do to discipline your kids is not what I'm getting at here. But I feel like it's more common if you live in certain areas of the country because sometimes you live somewhere where it's just not done for some reason, whether it be the pressures of society telling you not to spank your kids, or it's just a different type of society and kids don't get wound up in the same way and kids behave differently because of the environment they're in, so they never need spanked. Regardless of what the reasoning is, um, it's more common in some areas than it is in other areas, and I don't necessarily think that's a racial thing. I don't think that's particularly having anything to do with your race or ethnicity. And that's not just me trying to shirk the blame off of white people's shoulders, as somebody is going to come into the comments and inevitably say, because white people are the enemy, right? Right. I'm just thinking that usually in more southern areas, I'm not going to straight up say the South because there are places that are southern in the South, and then there are places that are in the South, but they're not southern. I live in a northern state, but there are some parts of this fucking state that are so southern and backwoods, where I was raised, for example. But yes, I feel like there's some things that are being attributed to race that race isn't the entire thing that could be causing it, or it could be the reason for it, or it could be the. Am I making sense? I know it's late. I know I should be sleeping, and I apologize for that. And I apologize for getting in your face about this. I'm not trying to get in your face. I'm just trying to say what I think. Because I keep seeing things about race, or excuse me, on TikTok and stuff like that, and it's everywhere now. And I feel like if they would do studies based around maybe like where people were from, where people grew up, the origin of a person's race, because sometimes someone is white, but they grew up in a very southern place, or most of their ancestors are from southern places. I've touched buttons on this phone right now, so if I look different than I did at the beginning of the phone, beginning of the video, it's because I fucked something up and I apologize. But if your ancestors are originally from somewhere that is very southern, very physically disciplining, style of parenting, that's what you're probably going to experience in your childhood. If you grew up somewhere where it's more, not physical discipline, I don't know how to word that, you aren't going to experience that, probably. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with whether you're white or black or Hispanic or Chinese or Japanese or Indian or wherever you may be from genetically. Um, I don't think it's entirely based on race. And I don't think people have truly thought of that because I just see a lot of race things coming into play. And when you stop and think about it, it's like, really, is this a race issue? Or are we turning it into a race issue? Because not everything is a race issue. Sometimes it's a geographical issue. Sometimes it's a, you know, family history issue. Because sometimes it doesn't matter where you move to, where you live, where you grow up. Your family has traditions as fucked up as that is to use for that specific tradition, of physically disciplining the kids. And it has nothing to do with where you live, if that's the case. So I feel like I guess my whole argument is like, is everything that we're attributing to race actually something that should be attributed to race, or should we be challenging it and being like, this isn't a race issue? Because the more we sit there and call things race issues that we haven't really stopped and looked at to see if they're really race issues, the more race issues we're going to have, the more issue we're going to have with tension between the races, and the more racism that's going to be things are going to be painted as racist when they're not.